Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Atomic Salt Live Show. This is the show where we're going to discuss everything in the tabletop hobby world. I am Wild Chevy. Sorry about last week. My co-host here couldn't speak at all. And let me introduce you to him. Casey. Casey, how are you this week?
Yo, 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 I'm the Thug McC.
You are so light.
Hey, man. Thug life in Ogden, Utah. It's hard out there.
I see you're more functional this week.
Yeah, I can actually talk. Last week I couldn't. The week before that I was hacking up a storm, so I'm moving in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah, it's always good. As long as you're upright, I mean, that's always a good thing in life.
So how's your week been, Alan?
It's been pretty good. Just busy. I've been cracking on painting up my stuff for LVO. I've got I got sick and tired of looking at red marines, but I can get sick and tired of looking at gray knights. But I mean,
So are you still thinking about bringing Blood Angels and Grey Knights then?
yep, that is my competition list.
Okay. I won't ask you to divulge your secret sauce here, so. But let me ask, how close are you to having them done?
I am, I'd say 75%. Everything, so Blood Angels are all painted. Drop pods are all painted. And I just need to do the Grey Knights. I have 3 things that I need to hit with the silver spray with the airbrush, and then paint a whole bunch of power swords. And then everything gets based.
So time-wise, how much longer do you think that's going to take?
It could take me a week if I push it. It's just not. I got a lot of other things on my plate, and I make sure that when it comes down to painting is the I've successfully done other things during the day. Now I can do painting stuff, so it's my reward.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm ready for 40K on LVO. I really should be practicing, but I haven't done any games in a while.
Yeah, we need to have a few 40K games here coming up. So have you kind of settled on your list then? Are you pretty comfortable with what it is?
Yeah, I've been using a similar list for the last 6 months or so. So I'm pretty locked in on what I'm going to do. I haven't seen any postings on how to submit my list, or if they need a list submittal. So, but I'm pretty locked in on what I got. The only thing that would stop me is if the next week or so GW drops Blood Angels Codex.
Well, technically you're playing Flesh Terrors, aren't you?
No, it's still Blood Angels. It's just the colors are Flesh Terrors.
Oh, okay.
But
because they have their Flesh Terror supplement out, don't they?
I think it was a data slate. Something, nothing new and fancy like we've seen lately, like with the Mana Chakra or whatever it was for Tau.
Montka.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been me for a little bit. How about you?
So actually, I wrapped up painting my last model that I needed for Infinity. So let me try and show it to you here if I can bring it up. For some reason it lets me look up. It doesn't let me look at my own pictures. Isn't that weird?
That's the joys of technology.
communities. Here we go. So the interesting is I did this one a little different. Typically I paint the eyes, and I've gotten fairly good at eye painting, to where it doesn't give me too much trouble. But this time I just kind of forgot, and so I just skipped it. And to be fair, I still think he turned out okay.
Yeah, you know what? He does look pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the model is a little out of balance with the blue on the bottom and nothing up on top. But at the same time, he's not anything wholly special for my army. He's just kind of one of my bog standard guys. I only bought the model because I needed it. I didn't feel like proxying him. So I did that. Also managed to get some Infinity in against, just this brutal opponent. This guy, he was tough.
What were you playing?
So we were playing, again, this was like for LVO prep. So we were playing highly classified, but we were playing it Highlander style. So for anybody who hasn't ever played Highlander, in Infinity, it's 111 points, 1 support weapon cost. Everything is availability 1. And I was feeling pretty good about my list. Like, I realized that there's some weaknesses with the way it works, but I was like, it'll be okay. And no, this guy, he came in and he just crushed my dreams.
Ouch. I mean,
I hope he slept well at night, because what he did to me is actually illegal in several states. Particularly our own.
But was he generally a nice guy while he was kicking your butt?
No, man. He was like the biggest douchebag in the world.
Oh.
No. So, Alan, you've never played Highlander before, have you?
I built a list to help a buddy practice his list. But,
oh, yeah? How did that go?
Well, it was interesting. I mean, I kind of did it on the fly, nothing really in mind, and kind of slapped him around the table.
Yeah? Did he take it like a man at least?
I think he went home crying to his wife.
Oh.
But I mean, the table terrain looked amazing.
It did. It really did. The only thing that threw it off was just like the green felt mat that we were playing on.
Yeah, for those of you out there, yes, did practice. We're being coy, but yes, we did duke it out a little bit, and my list was a little bit evil, comparative.
Well, that was you?
Yes.
I'm not being coy. I didn't recognize you in that fetish mask.
Okay, maybe it was a different game.
Oh, it's always a great day when I can throw Alan off his game. Doesn't happen often. The man is inflappable, but sometimes you can do it.
I mean, Brother Casey, I wasn't thinking you'd even know what a fetish mask was.
You know what? Never said anything about it. So I don't remember the last time they brought it up in conference.
So, highly classified.
Sure.
Explain that a little bit.
Okay. So let me switch on over here. Let's take a look at this mission. So our main objectives are to have more classified objectives than the adversary at the end of the game, which is worth a whopping 4 points. For ITS, it's really rare to see that many points for something. And then if you only have the same number of classified objectives, but only if you have at least one, you get 2 points. And then you also get For every classified objective that you perform, you get 1 objective point each. So obviously, the way that you score points in this is by doing your classified objectives. And then your secondary objective, each player has 1 secondary classified objective that's worth 2 objective points versus the regular 1.
Now this requires the cards, right?
You know, you can actually play this without cards just fine. You just have to roll on the table, I found. The cards definitely make it easier, though. So, regular deployment zones. There's no obstruction zones. There's nothing preventing you from using your regular infiltrators or AD combat type troops. So, the way this game works, I could read this all to you, or I could explain it a lot faster. Each player is going to draw 2 cards. So you have a total of 4 cards on the table. If you have any duplicates, you redraw until you have 4 unique objectives. These are going to be your primary objectives. And you will both try to achieve these. And you can both achieve them. So Alan could achieve all 4. And if I was on top of my game, I could achieve all 4 as well. And then after you've drawn those, then you'll draw 2 cards. And from that, you'll pick your secondary classified objective. This one, you'll keep to yourself. You don't share that with your opponent. And essentially from there on out, it's just your regular game of Infinity, except you're just playing for those objectives that you've drawn. So that means that you're not really trying to look and hold any one particular area. You're not trying to, hack a terminal or move beacons around. It's just a fairly straightforward game of trying to complete the objectives. Now, because it's all just objective based, you're really going to want to bring a lot of, you're going to want to bring a lot of your specialists. So try and bring several of at least everything, because you never know when you don't bring your engineer and then you have 3 objectives that require an engineer. You really don't want to have that happen to you.
Now, this is in the normal tournament and also in the Highlander, right?
No, this is only going to be for the Highlander, but we're going to be playing 3 rounds of it. So, and that's the tough thing with Highlander is now instead of having 300 points to draw your specialist from, you only have 111 points.
Okay.
So, Al, why don't you tell us a little bit about your list?
All right, let me pull it up here real quick. My list, so I took Hawkislam because that's what I have. And here's my fancy list. 111 points on the dot, 0.5 on the special weapon cost. And what I have, I've got a Nafatoon Lieutenant with the light flamethrower. My Assassin Fide. She's my impersonation trooper. A Coon Biker, one of these bad boys. A Halka Doctor Plus with mechanized deployment. A Hawa Hacker. And a Barid, forward observer. And I kind of threw this list together. I've got 3 specialists. One's a doctor, so she can hopefully heal everybody else. And then I've got 3 troops that can deploy outside my deployment. And with such low model counts, such low points, the model count's very low. So I only have 5 orders, 1 irregular order, and 1 extremely impetuous troop. So that was
you're not covering. Oh, sorry.
That's the basis of my list.
Now, you're not covering all of your bases, are you, in terms of specialists?
Correct. I do not. Hawkislam only has 1 engineer outside sectorals. And I just could not think of a way to bring him effectively.
As vanilla, is Kaplan available to you?
No, they are the KTS troops are sectoral. I think.
That's a bummer. Oh well. So I really like this list. I mean, you just say you threw it together, but you should give yourself some credit. As you said, you've got a lot of models that can deploy up forward, and so you can really move and put yourself where you need to be without wasting orders. And additionally, with the Coon Biker, you have some fast models there too. So trying to cover the board, that's half the problem in Highlander, which for your army is not a problem at all.
True. I chose, knowing it was an objective game, I went a little bit differently with my deployment. I made sure that I won the roll off. I had you go first on deployment, and then you went first on the mission, and yeah. So
well, let's talk a little bit about your deployment some more. So I put down my troops and I hold down one in reserve,
mm-hmm.
and then you put down your troops and held one in reserve. I put in my reserve model. And then you put in your reserve model, and what was that?
It was the Assassin Fide.
Right. And how does that work?
This is the unit that makes a lot of people hate Hawk Islam. They can, with human armies, they have 2 levels of impersonation, which pretty much means they're seen as friendly troops. And then it requires some orders to discover her, or she can get discovered as soon as she makes a roll. And with impersonation, she can deploy right outside of the enemy deployment zone with no problem, or she can deploy inside of it with a roll.
Yep. So you can actually and it's very hard to discover. You said you need multiple rolls to discover it.
Yeah.
It has a nasty boarding shotgun.
Yeah.
And so
it's a troop that you either have to focus on or forget. And hopefully nobody is strung up in a conga line.
How many points is it?
Only 29 points. 0 SWC.
Yeah, and that is just such a great unit just to drop in front of your enemy, because like you said, they either have to deal with it or ignore it. But the problem is in Highlander, you have so few models to begin with and so few orders that if you're going to try and discover it and remove it from the board, you need to count on allocating a significant portion of your orders, if not all of it, for your first turn, which can really just bog your army down, while you are essentially spending no orders on it, or you don't have to if you don't want to.
Mm-hmm. Put in a nice spot. She can lock down a good chunk of an army.
Yeah, so I think that even though you just kind of put this together, this is an absolutely devastating list. And then you have some other great synergies elsewhere in this list as well, don't you?
Yeah. The Hacker and the Bereed. The Bereed has the forward observer, and he also has a marker on his gun, so he can shoot a repeater. And that means you can place a repeater anywhere on the board as long as you got line of sight, or if you can do it with speculative fire. And that pairs up well with the Hacker. So a lot of the missions require forward observing or doing a spotlight hack on either enemy troop or their high value target. So yeah, you shoot the marker out there, make sure it's within a good zone, and then just start hacking through it. And the enemy, unless the enemy has a hacker in that zone of control, you just spend those orders to get the objectives.
Yeah, which is great because between those two models, one with a marker and one with its actual forward deployment or its infiltration, you can swath a large area in hacking AROs and actually complete your objectives just through AROs.
Yep.
So you do really well with hacking. You've got doctors, which Hawk Islam is really good at, and then a forward observer. And so I think that there's some wonderful synergy with this list. And it's one of those lists that does really good offensively and defensively as well, because you have camo tokens, impersonation. You've got smoke on the Coom Rider. The Nafatoon has its heavy flamethrower, which nobody's going to want to get near. So, all in all, well done to you, sir. I mean, this is a beautiful list, I think, for Highlander.
Almost fully painted too. With some time, I probably if I was playing down there at the LVO, I would definitely push to get painted.
And so my question to you, sir, is why don't you just paint that up, and why don't you just play Infinity at LVO? It's going to be less models. You've got a killer list, and in Infinity, I mean, there's not really such thing as like a killer list, but if there was a killer list, this would be a killer list.
No, 40K ex-girlfriend, pretty much.
She got a new tattoo, wants to show it to you. She's like, "Hey, come on over."
Yeah, for
got a new tattoo. We'll have some drinks.
For the last 2 years, I had class, so I was unable to go to 40K night. Now school's over, I'm like, all right, I can play again, and yeah.
She's like, "Come on over."
So, what was your list?
Okay, so my list. I don't have the paper copy of it here, but that's all right. I have it memorized. So I've got Akmon. He's my dactyl engineer. I have a dactyl doctor. I have Celia. She's a hacker, and she's got one dev bot with her. And then finally, I have a Myrmidon officer as my lieutenant. Maybe I shouldn't say that because this is the list I'm bringing to LVO. But if you know Aleph at all, you realize it's the only one that could be my lieutenant. So right away, we see that you've got almost twice as many orders as I do when you count an impetuous order. So I'm working at a slight disadvantage. I do have most of my bases covered, except for a forward observer. What I like with Celia and her dev bot is, again, it's a repeater and it's G synchronized. So whenever she moves, it moves as well. So you can cover a really large area of the board with her. And hacking and essentially try to duplicate what you're doing. But that's about it. Akmon is a fine engineer, and he does just okay offensively. The problem is he doesn't have no wound incapacitation. He does have a Panzerfaust, which is nice. But he's only armor 1 and BTS 3, so he's really fragile. Same goes with the Dactyl Doctor. There's not a lot to them. Probably my toughest and most killiest unit would be the Myrmidon Officer, which is my lieutenant. She does have 0V smoke grenades, so that can kind of help me get in position if I need to. But in general, I'm not happy with this list because I don't feel like there's a lot of synergy and there's not a lot of things that play well off of each other. If I had some way of creating like an Enomotarkos link, that would be amazing. But I don't really have that option. And then I'm paying a hefty lieutenant tax because that merman officer is 27 points. And that is my cheapest lieutenant I have available to me. I don't know, man. Do you have any advice? I'm just kind of stuck. Unfortunately, I look at the rest of now. Generally, I play steel phalanx, but if I broaden this out to the rest of the left, I don't feel like that gives me any extra options.
I say I know you could probably I know you don't have miniature. That's probably why you don't field them. Um, the pods, the order pods.
Oh yes, yes, I know what you're talking about.
I mean, that low cost allows you to get an order. I think that would help because you need orders in this such a uh, low points game. I mean, you'd only be able to take one because it's AVA one,
Mm-hmm.
but that's another order on the board.
Yeah, it's just tough. Like in general, a left is just so expensive that either in points or support weapon cost that it's so hard.
My other option to you would be just take my list.
I've actually thought about that a lot, but I have a hard time taking somebody else's army to play. I mean, I understand theoretically how it works, but I don't have much experience with it. And the other thing is that also, I just want to bring my guys.
There is something about bringing your own stuff to the board.
All right, guys. So we're going to try something here. Let's try building a list. Maybe we could do a little bit better here. So first of all, we're going to need a lieutenant. So we have a Deva functionary. And ideally what I want out of this lieutenant is I want it to be able to do several things. Be more than a lieutenant. I'd like it to be a specialist. Diomedes is too expensive. Alki, she's 1.5 SWC, so she won't work. Achilles is somewhat hilarious, but I can't afford him. Ajax, he's too expensive. Azura is too expensive. Marut, nope. The Dacis is kind of an interesting idea. He is infiltration, and he does have TO camouflage, but his lieutenant option is 2 SWC. Eudoros, I love that guy, but again, he's pricey. Machion is pricey as well, but he is a doctor, and he's got a lot of tools. He's got 0V smoke grenades, a combi rifle, martial arts level 3, no wound incapacitation. He's whip 15. He versus a Myrmidon doctor for a lieutenant is about 10 points less, and has kind of a similar setup. And then Phoenix, and he's just too expensive. So let's start with Machion, huh? So after that, I would say let's try and look at maybe Celia again.
Well, I mean, yeah, go for hackers. See what you have for hackers.
So we have the Deva functionary, who is synchronized as well. She's 27 points. Whip 15, armor 2. We have a post-human, but with post-humans, we have to take several of them, and we're only allowed to take one. So post-humans just aren't going to work. Celia, who has a dev bot, she's 30 points. and lower whip, but the same skill. So maybe the dev is the way to go. Thamaris, he doesn't really do much for us. He does have a marker though, which is interesting at 25 points. But let's give a.
I would say Thamaris, man. He got the marker, and he's a hacker.
Yep. Marker plus a hacker. All right.
Forward observers. What do you have for those?
We have 3 options. We have the Therakitai, which is not bad. He's only 13 points. He's got a 360 visor, armor 3, but at only 4-2, he's not very quick. So he would kind of need to be set up where he has good line of fire and hope that somebody comes towards him. I have a Daleth Rebot, which we could take. It comes with a whole bevy of things. We have Climbing Plus, Remote Presence, which we can take because we do have a hacker. And then a Dasis, which is TO Camo plus Infiltration, no wound incapacitation.
Take the bot.
We're just going cheap. So we have a Doctor Hacker, a Forward Observer.
Get a net rod in there.
Yeah, we'll throw one in right now. You can always use a net rod. Then let's take a look and see what we've got in terms of engineers. So we have Akmon again at 27 points. We have a Dactyl who's going to be 23 points. The only big difference here that we see between them is a difference in willpower. And, one better ballistic skill. But the Dactyl seems pretty good. Posthumans are out. Now the Sophatech is an interesting choice because it's a doctor plus an engineer. It also has no wind incapacitation and has a 6-4 movement. And so I kind of like it. It's much pricier than the other ones, but it's mobile. And then we have the Therakitai engineer, who's only 20 points. He's the cheapest of our bunch. So we'll throw him in there.
And gives you 7 points left?
7 points left. We've maxed out our SWC. So, yeah.
So that gives you 5 orders. That's one more than you had before.
One more than I had before. And arguably, maybe slightly more synergy in the fact that Thamaris does have that marker, which
lets you reach out and touch someone.
Yep. Which works pretty well. Machion has 0v smoke grenades, plus he's a doctor. Thorkite engineer. Yeah, I don't love it. You know what I mean? Like, I just look at it and I say, sure, it checks all the boxes, but I'm just not sure it really works. You know what I mean? I like the idea of having some kind of infiltration. We don't have any mechanized deployment, so if we're going to get up the board, infiltration or AD combat is the way to go. Which we do. We do have. We have an Agdromi, who's an assault hacker for 25 points. And so he would pretty much be a drag and drop for Thamaris.
Yeah.
So Thamaris has the marker, but we have AD combat jump, which, especially in a low points game like this, could really do some work.
You drop them in a spot, drop them in the right place.
Although, so without a hacker on the board, because the Rebot has a remote presence, it's not able to activate. It just sits there. You can't spin any orders on it. So that means Honestly, I would rather just drop him. Because one, I don't like. He's not that great. Although he does have a repeater.
Take 2 hackers. One with the marker, one with the AD jump.
That's not a horrible idea, actually.
Because with hacker, you do have spotlight. It's a -3 to your whip, but it's a program, and you can do it through repeaters.
Oh, but I can't. He's 0.5 SWC. I'm not going to be able to get any other hackers in there between him and Machion.
How about Penny on her bike?
You know, honestly, I've thought about that. Okay, this is more interesting. We're going to figure out how to make Penicileia work. We could do Achilles and hoplite armor, but then I just feel abusive. Okay, so this is I'm not going to win any games, but I'm going to kill shit.
So ODD, does she have any? She's not a specialist, right?
She's not.
So she's cruise missile.
Yep, this is ODD with her motorcycle, so she's 8.6. I call level 2, kinematica level 2, no wound incapacitation, combi rifle, contender, plus nanopulsar, plus monofilament. So, like any great woman, she's ready for anything that the evening is going to throw at her. So we'll put a net rod in, because that's dirt cheap. Next, so what we need now is just cheap troops. Thrakatai. Tell you what, we'll even make him. We have a 12-point option, but we also have a 13-point, which is Forward Observer. So sure, why not? For giggles, we'll put that in. And then we're going to need. We're going to need some more light infantry. Cheap. Text, there it is. That's the funny thing is, we don't actually have a whole lot of cheap stuff. Zero roots. A Dakini tac bot. There we go. Those are nice and cheap. Hey, we even got one that's a paramedic. 6'4". Looks good. Oh, we need a lieutenant now. Balls. Okay. So we have a dev of functionary at 27 points who's synchronized with a dev bot. Or our next cheapest one is the Myrmidon Officer, but SSWC. So we're stuck with the dev of functionary. 27. We got 7 more points. I have nothing that is that cheap in my whole army.
No.
So I've got 5 orders. Plus Penicileia is impetuous. So essentially 6.
But you can use a command token to make that order.
Yeah. Rows are tags with that. What? Oh, shoot. The Dakini is remote presence. Why does everything have to be so difficult?
Because you play an army of
cheaters, yeah.
Not cheaters. I was gonna say an army of not bimbos. The best that the world has to offer.
Mm-hmm. So I could throw in a Dactyl Engineer there for 23 points. That's kind of like my baseline there. So what I need to do is find something that I like more for 23 points. and I drum me with a chain rifle. That's actually an interesting idea. Again, if this is going to be just like a screw you type list, you start Penicillea on the board. And nobody's ever going to expect you to come in with like an 80 combat drum troop, while Penicillea just sits there. That could be hilarious. Too expensive. Already got one. Maybe I'll just get a bunch of snipers and just say, "Come at me, bro." Threat. Thrasymedes is a specialist troop. Unfortunately, that doesn't help me in highly classified. There's nothing for him to do. I think that might be the best I can do is 5 orders. But ironically, that does still give me an engineer and a forward observer.
Yeah, that's what you need.
So, I don't know. I don't have a net rod, and I don't have a Deva. But those are just a couple models I could paint up really quickly.
Yeah, you can make a net rod if you really wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, I could proxy something else in for that. All right. So everybody, that's the question. Do I go with a honest list, or do I just try and have some fun, knowing that I can't win?
Oh,
So,
I definitely
share your
think.
comments below. Post us your thoughts. Let us know what you think.
I'm in the opinion if you can't win, take your ball and throw it at somebody's face.
Fair. That is fair. So, Alan, that's about all I've got tonight. But why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you've been working on here?
I'm working on my Draconic Awards painting submission. I've got Lupe Beboa, Mother of Dragons, and I've got her going on this nice plinth base that I made.
Okay, so you made that yourself?
Yes.
How did you do that?
It's wood cubes that I got from the hobby store. And then I built up the layers with some scrap MDF from kits that I had laying around. And then I made tiles with milliput. And then I just started painting it. And I went with the marble look because he's going to be primarily red. And so it'll offset that really well.
So this painting looks beautiful on this plinth. I mean, I don't care what the model looks like. I just, give me the base. Can you tell us a little bit about how you did that?
Old buddy who used to be on YouTube. He hasn't posted many videos. I'm not sure what's happened to him. He posted a video about how to do marble. And what you do is you get your paint, get it to real thin consistency. You put it on there, and you take a hair dryer to it, and then so all those rings that you get when you mop washes on. That's exactly what you're trying to do. So it's the exact opposite of what you learn when you do washes. And then just draw lines onto it, and then wash it again. Do it several times, and that way you just get that translucency effect.
Yeah, I just gotta say, I realize that you're still working on the model, so we won't talk about her too much. But I think that just the base, you're off to an amazing start.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get it finished.
Well, don't forget, you still got some boys in red and silver to paint up too.
True.
Well, that's all I've got for tonight, Alan. Yourself?
That's all I have. Don't think I have anything. Yeah, I don't think I have anything at the top of my head as far as information goes. Uh, as far as new releases out there, looks like the dwarves are coming to Age of Sigmar,
Yep,
and
I don't need a bunch of naked dudes running around on my table.
yeah, they showed a dragon thing. Like the dragon looks cool. I don't want the half naked dwarf on the top though.
Half naked, more like 3/4 or 7/8.
I like my dwarves working the mines, not stripping it for Chippendales.
Nobody needs to know how baby dwarves are made.
Yeah, but yeah, that's it for me. So, folks, we leave it up to you. I mean, if you're interested in coming down to the LVO, Las Vegas Open, sponsored by Frontline Gaming, we'd love to see you down there. It's going to be its first weekend of February. That's also Super Bowl weekend. We'll be down there. Make sure you tell us hi. Casey will be buying drinks for everybody. It might be bottles of water, but he'll still buy drinks.
I'll tell you what, the first 5 people who come up to me and actually reference this show, I will buy you a bottle of water. Tell you.
Well, there you go, folks. I mean, what better incentive is that? All right. Let us know in the comments below what you think. Like this video. Share it with your friends. Subscribe to see more. Casey, anything else?
No, just as always, let us know if there's anything that you find interesting or you'd like us to talk about. You can shoot us an email at theatomicsalt@gmail.com. This is the Atomic Salt, and Alan's basing skills have blown my mind.
Good night, folks. See you next week.